You're standing on a platform built almost 5,800 years ago. There are no written records here, no map, no inscription telling you what this place meant. Archaeologists slowly remove the soil. One patch of earth is red from fire, then another, then another. Eventually, there are seven. 7 pits are not strange by themselves. But when archaeologists plot their positions, the pattern looks familiar, very familiar. The Big Dipper. If that resemblance is intentional, people living here thousands of years before the first Chinese empire may have copied part of the night sky onto the ground. But there is a problem. 7 pits that look like 7 stars are not proof. So how do you tell the difference between an ancient design and a coincidence? The discovery comes from Niuheliang, a prehistoric site in northeastern China linked to the Hongshan culture. Archaeologists were working at what they call platform number 7. It is just one part of a much larger complex. On the northern side of that platform, they found 7 fire-reddened pits. Not 6, not 8, 7. And according to the excavation team, those 7 pits form a fairly regular arrangement that resembles the Big Dipper. That explains why the idea appeared so quickly. Put the pits on one side, put the stars on the other. Your brain almost wants to connect them for you. But archaeology cannot stop at resemblance. Context matters. And the location of these pits makes the story much stranger. Because Platform 7 does not sit beside an ordinary prehistoric house. Niuheliang contains a large ceremonial landscape. At the site's first locality, archaeologists have identified 9 major artificial platforms, along with related structures. Together, they cover an area of roughly 100,000 square meters. Some of this construction dates to around 5,800 years ago. Think about what that means. People moved huge amounts of earth. They shaped platforms. They organized large construction projects. Someone planned this place, and the 7 pits were found inside that planned environment. So now the question changes. It is no longer just this. Why do 7 pits look like the Big Dipper? Now, the question is, why were they placed here? Platform 7 itself was carefully built. Previous archaeological reports describe layers of construction, prepared ground, packed earth, stone, walls, repeated building work. Researchers have also found large numbers of pottery fragments in its foundation layers. Those details have led archaeologists to connect the platform with special ceremonial activity. That does not prove the 7 pits represent stars. But it does make the idea harder to dismiss as 7 random fires. And then there is another clue. Elsewhere at Niuheliang, at the second locality, archaeologists uncovered a huge 3-tiered circular altar. Its largest diameter is about 22 meters. Researchers have proposed that its 3 levels may correspond to important points in the sun's annual cycle: the winter solstice, the equinoxes, and the summer solstice. Again, that is still an interpretation. But now the 7 pits are no longer the only feature at Niuheliang that researchers have connected with the sky. Suddenly, the bigger question is no longer whether one pattern looks like 7 stars. It is whether parts of this ceremonial landscape were designed around observations of the heavens. And if the 7 pits really do represent the Big Dipper, why would that constellation matter? The answer may be surprisingly practical. From Earth, the orientation of the Big Dipper changes through the seasons. The excavation team has pointed to this seasonal change when discussing the new pits. So if prehistoric people were carefully watching the sky, the Big Dipper could have helped them recognize changes in the year. Notice the word could. We do not know that the Hongshan people used these pits as a calendar. We do not know what rituals, if any, happened around them. And we should not invent a priest standing here, pointing at the stars. The evidence does not give us that scene. It gives us 7 pits, a ceremonial platform, and a possible connection to the sky. And this is where the story becomes dangerous, because by now, the Big Dipper explanation feels almost perfect. 7 pits, a ceremonial site, another structure linked to the solar year, a constellation whose orientation changes with the seasons. It fits. Maybe too well. Human beings are extremely good at seeing patterns. 3 marks can become a face. Random stars can become animals, hunters, or heroes. And once someone tells you these 7 pits look like the Big Dipper, it becomes difficult to unsee it. So we have to ask the uncomfortable question. Are we discovering a pattern the Hongshan people created? Or are we creating the pattern ourselves? There is no surviving label beside the pits saying, "This is the Big Dipper." In fact, the latest reports still say the exact nature of the 7 fire-reddened pits requires further study. That uncertainty is not a weakness in the story. It is the most important part of it, because now we can ask a better question. What would actually make the Big Dipper idea convincing? First, archaeologists would need to know whether the 7 pits belong to the same period. If some were created much earlier than others, the pattern becomes harder to defend. Then there is geometry. Their exact positions matter. Their spacing matters. Their direction matters. Their proportions matter. A rough resemblance is not enough. Researchers can also reconstruct what the sky looked like from this region thousands of years ago. Then they can compare that ancient sky with the layout on the ground. And perhaps the strongest test would be repetition. Imagine another Hongshan ceremonial site is excavated, and there, archaeologists find another similar 7-point pattern. At that point, coincidence becomes much harder to argue. That is how an attractive idea becomes a testable one. So, did people in ancient China map the Big Dipper onto this platform 5,800 years ago? Right now, the most accurate answer is maybe. The 7 pits are real. Their arrangement really does resemble the Big Dipper. They really were found on a major platform inside an extraordinary ceremonial complex. And researchers really are considering a connection with ancient observations of the sky. But the pits still do not come with an explanation. 8 minutes ago, you were looking at 7 patches of burned earth. Then we placed 7 stars above them. Now, when you look again, you can see 2 things at once: a possible map of the sky and a question mark. And in archaeology, that question mark can be more valuable than an answer given too soon.